Hi, and welcome to the second video in a series of training videos on how to be successful in multi-level marketing. This is presentation 2, and we're talking about salesman failure syndrome today. I'm Rob Lemke, and I'm a lifestyle trainer with approximately 20 years of experience in multi-level marketing. So I hope to bring that experience to bear as we go through these slides today. Are you with me? Let's go on. Okay, salesman failure syndrome. First of all, what is it? Well, salesperson failure syndrome is when somebody comes into your organization as a very successful salesman from a traditional type of business and thinks that they can replicate that in the multi-level marketing kind of a network. And they fail miserably at it typically. And why is that? Well, most people think, especially salespeople, that if you sponsor somebody, that you've duplicated your effort. So there you are, the sponsor, you've brought somebody into the organization, there you go, done. Sounds logical, right? There's one, now there's two. Actually, it's not true. What happens if the sponsor goes away? Basically, the sponsored person is likely not going to continue. The research is showing that at the first level, there's a pretty high percentage of people leaving if they're not taught something, if they're not given instructions properly, if they're not trained properly in order to start bringing other people into the organization, which makes sense, really. So if that sponsor goes away or becomes neglects those people in any ways because he's so busy sponsoring other people, then of course you're going to get a sponsored person that doesn't want to stay, that nothing's happening for them, they're not seeing any results, and they don't really know what to do. They're kind of bewildered because they've been given very little instruction from the sponsor. So that's the idea, that if you're sponsoring somebody and you duplicate, if you sponsor somebody, it's not a duplication. Let's see then, what is a duplication? Well, if you truly want to duplicate, if you want to do it in the right way, you have to go 3 levels deep. So we'll explain why on the next slide. But basically only then you become duplicated. And here's why. Let's say that you're there and you sponsor Tom, okay? If you left Tom on his own with some basic instructions, probably he wouldn't hang around for long and go to find another opportunity. But say that you take the time now and teach Tom how he's going to go out and sponsor 2 people, and then you have to teach him how to teach those 2 people to also go and sponsor, and then he goes out and sponsors Carol, but then he has to teach Carol, and you're helping him also to teach Carol how to bring in a new sponsor and teach them how to sponsor somebody else. So now you've got you're teaching Tom, you've recruited and you've sponsored and taught Tom, and he's sponsored and taught Carol with your help, and then Carol has sponsored the last person, Betty, in the 3rd level down, okay? And now she's teaching Betty with your help and Tom's help how to sponsor another person and bring them into the organization and teach them to sponsor, etc., etc. So here you're working the line down. You're going deeper and deeper in your line and training everybody as you go, teaching people, essentially. So your 2 main jobs when you come into the organization are sponsoring people, but it doesn't stop there. You don't go on to the next person and sponsor a whole bunch of people and neglect the first people that you sponsored. You have to teach each one of those, and that's where the hard work and the time and the effort comes in multi-level marketing. So that's where we're at, and that's what's going to give you true duplication, and that happens only when you're 3 levels deep. Okay, then we'll move to the next slide here. Say you bring in some super salesman, this guy, for example, we'll call him Charlie, and he goes out and he sponsors 130 people because he's a great salesman. He's good at persuading people. He's good at closing. He gets the deal done, and he brings 130 people in on the first line, and he gives them this instruction. He says, "You guys got to go out and get five people each, okay? You got to get 5 people each." And that's really all he tells them in terms of what they have to do once they come into a multi-level marketing organization. So these guys are motivated by Charlie. They see his energy and bring people in, and they go out and find not 130 each. They just have to bring 5, right? So they're bringing 5 people each, and now you've got 130 people who brought 5 people each. That makes 650. When you add those first 130 people as well on the first line, you have an organization that's 780 people strong. Now, if you remember back to our first presentation, that 780 number should sound familiar. That was the number of our organization when we went 3 levels down, and we sponsored 5 people each. That's all we had to do. There was nobody sponsoring 130 people. All of us were sponsoring and teaching 5 people each in that organization that goes 3 levels deep. So we got the same number of people, but let's see what happens now. Okay, so instead of just sponsoring and not telling them what to do, essentially, you're kind of neglecting the first 5 as you go to the second 5, and you're neglecting those first 10 when you go and find another 5. And if you've got 130 people on your first line, that's somewhere somebody's being neglected. So you've got to be able to work with 5 people on your first line so that you can work down the line and help and teach everybody to sponsor and teach the next person to sponsor and teach, etc. Okay, essentially. Okay, so what are you teaching? Well, exactly as we're doing in this video, we're teaching the step-by-step effective way to build an organization in multi-level marketing. It's something that's kind of a void in multi-level marketing, to be frank. So that's what compels me also to teach this to you guys. So this is essentially what it's all about. You spend a lot of time teaching. So it helps to have those skills as well, to be able to teach and train other people. So what are we teaching? We're teaching the first 4 presentations that you see here on the YouTube, and then eventually you go to all 10 of them that you see here on YouTube. Okay, but it's critical to very early on in your relationship with your downline, teach these first 4 presentations, and that will begin to solidify into a 3 levels deep organization for both you and them as you continue to go on down. That will yield a much bigger organization that's far more effective than Charlie's 130 on the first line. And we'll see why also in the next presentation. So just to sum up then, if you take a super salesperson, which is, and we're not saying that you shouldn't, don't get us wrong. You should take the salespeople as well, because they're very good at closing, as we mentioned, and very good at persuading people. But what you do with them, that's the crux or the critical thing. So basically, super salespeople are great at growing revenue in traditional business, but when they come into your organization, you have to take the time to teach them what you need from them. It's not a matter of getting out there all gung-ho and persuading and closing with 130 people. It's rather teaching them the skills of teaching, sponsoring, and teaching 5 people. So the emphasis is on the training and making them strong in sponsoring and training. And you're dealing with 5 people now, so they can concentrate on those 5 people instead of having to worry about going on and getting 5 more and 5 more, up to 130 people. Okay. That's the whole idea. And then in the end, once you've got these people in your organization, it's far more effective for them to operate in this way. And in that way, they get a true duplication as well. So that's the second presentation on salesman failure syndrome. Hope it's been useful. And if you have any questions about it, just go ahead and leave them in the comments. Comments are open here on YouTube. And if you want to learn more about our business, there is also a link there that are provided below the video, so you can go directly to the company that we are with right now and learn about the opportunity there. So once again, really appreciate your time. This is the second presentation out of 10, so we'll see you in the next training session. Thanks very much.